What is an age-friendly city? What do we want? There are two things that are fundamental. The 21st century is going to grow older and it's going to be more urbanized. So the most natural thing is for us to bring together aging and the urban environment. And the city that is going to be age-friendly is going to be friendly to everybody of all ages. We're talking about housing. We're talking about transportation. We are talking about access to public buildings, to parks. We're talking about the fact that older people want to walk, but they want benches because they have to sit from 300 to 300 meters so that they can recharge the batteries. They want to have the bus driver that will have the right attitude, that will stop when it's needed, that will not be abrupt and speed up when it's not necessary. We have to think about access to information. We have to think a place where, like me, I get to an airport that I don't know and all the signage is confusing and I can't really orientate myself. That is what it feels like when you are old. You have difficulty to navigate, to find information, and you end up having to rely on other persons. Is to give this autonomy for people to live independent lives. And if it is going to be more friendly to older people, a child, a teenager, someone with disability, a pregnant woman, a man carrying a luggage, everybody is going to benefit. It's harmony rather than a war between generations.
Research in my community, Portland, Oregon, has shown that those residents who live in a place that is transit friendly, that means it's pedestrian friendly. There are safe crossings of streets, there are sidewalks, you call them footpaths. Those amenities mean that people walk a lot more. They don't just go from that front door to the car to get to essential services. As a result, they weigh about 5 pounds less, that's a little over a couple of kilos, and their health care costs are just under $6,000 less expensive than they would be for other residents.
Yeah, you can make an estimate about the cost of road crashes. You have different techniques of doing that. Basically, you would like to put a price on the consequences of road crashes. That means that this society has a cost of something like $1.5 billion Australian dollars a year when it comes to road crashes. And that's a serious problem, because then we are talking about something like 2% of your gross domestic product. So in economical terms, it is very, very relevant indeed.
Behavioral change tells us that if we want people to change, we have to do something. We can't just let things go like they are. So for instance, if you have a rule that there is a requirement that you have to submit a request for an adjournment in writing, and the attorney doesn't do that, then you can fine them. If there's a rule that says the case must be ready at X amount of time and they don't do that, then you can fine them. All the ideas I've talked about are not some pie-in-the-sky idea. The county in which I was a judge is about the same size, with about twice the number of cases as we see here in South Australia, and these are the rules we live by. There were very few cases that were dismissed because the defendant's speedy trial rights were violated. There are very few lawyers that ever get fined for doing things that they're not supposed to do, because everybody knows and understands the rules and follows them. It's just a matter of changing the local legal culture to get compliance with that kind of system that is faster, more fair, and more economical, so people aren't paying attorney's fees for wasted time in court.
Businesses here are hurting big time. So it's usually the case around the world that until I'm hurting that much, I'm not going to change. So how do you get that? Wait for a crisis. Oh no, with the benefit of hindsight, you'd have been saying this 10 years ago, and the crisis may not have come. Well, it would actually, the drought would still have come. Because companies, large and small, government agencies are thinking about today, and they're not thinking enough about tomorrow. And if they did, they'd be devoting, even if it's only small bits of their resources, time, brain power, effort into, now what does that mean for me? Yep, and as that becomes increasingly compelling, I'm ready to respond. Whereas what we've now got is a rush to catch up. And whenever you're rushing, you're going to be tripping over and it's going to cost you more and you'll make mistakes.
If we consider intelligent investment to be the relationship between design, planning, and development, those are codependent processes. They're complementary. But as it is now, the flow of decision-making, at least in South Australia or in the Adelaide context, goes from development, which is market-driven, planning, which is effectively policy-driven, and then designers are asked to consider what the possibilities are within that space or within that context. If we reverse the flow and go from design to planning to development, we're effectively opening up opportunities and innovation within that space.
Technology is always moving ahead. I think as an anthropologist, one of the things I know is that as people, we don't move anywhere near as quickly as the technology does. And the things we care about as a culture, as a society, as families, communities, that stuff is remarkably stable over time. So for me, one of the reasons to do the kind of work I've done is that establishing what it is that we care about as a society, as a culture, as a state, once you know those things, that stuff doesn't change. The technology rolls ahead in leaps and bounds, but once you know what it is we're going to care about and what motivates us, it's much easier to think about how to link those things back together again. And then it absolutely becomes a question of timing and of vision, and also of knowing that what we say the technology will look like now may be very different than what it actually turns out to be implemented 5 years from now.